Molly Baker, who's a legal intern for the City Law Department. Someone else here named Rob. Rob, are you with us? If so, if you could unmute. Rob, can you hear me? Can you just need you to unmute?
Can you hear me?
I can. All right. Rob, can you give me your full name and let me know who you're representing here today?
Robert Painter.
Okay, didn't catch the last name there. Could you say again?
Yeah, I apologize if you. Yeah, it's Robert B. It's Robert Vernon Painter. Sorry,
Robert.
I'm at Boy Scout summer camp, so I'm doing my best here.
Okay. Robert Painter. Okay.
Yes, Painter.
And you are the applicant on this,
I
the
am.
engineer?
Yes.
Okay, great. Are you expecting anyone else to join us here today on
No.
on your team? Okay. All right, great. Let's go ahead and get started then. I am going to read through our hearing script. This will just cover the procedure for the hearing, and then we'll jump into it. So this is the July 10th, 2024 session of the zoning hearing examiner docket. My name is David Sturkey. Case for today's case number is ZH20240082. Purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any other parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any other party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. If there were anyone here from the public, they'd have an opportunity to speak after the applicant had presented its case. I'll hear from the planning department to provide any testimony. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to that testimony offered in opposition. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing statements. After all, excuse me, after all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make any comments. In the event of any technical difficulties, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those on the fly, but to the extent there's a defect that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay, I just need to swear in all of our witnesses, so if you intend on providing testimony here today, if you could raise your right hand, I need you to answer out loud and just take yourself off mute. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I
Yes.
do.
Okay, great. Rob, are you ready to proceed?
I'm ready.
Okay. And
So we submitted basically a. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna, it seems like there's just a pretty significant lag here. See if we can push through it, but just seems like a slow connection
Okay.
on your side, which
It is a slow connection. Let me see if I can get a better one. It's a little bit loud in there, and my headphones appeared not to work in there. So let me see what I can do. Sorry. Is that any better?
it seems to be so far.
Okay, we'll give this a shot. Sorry. Again, I apologize. I'm at Boy Scout camp, and I appreciate you guys hearing us today. So, with having patience with some of these difficulties. So, we had
Sure.
submitted a cut fill permit for the Cincinnati Country Club project, which is in two separate parcels. So, we submitted two separate applications, and those applications then were denied because we have cuts or fills inside of the hillside overlay district, which exceed the allowable 4 feet. So I'm just going to kind of read off a little bit of the application. The proposed project is grading improvements to the golf course including reshaping some tee boxes, fairways, and greens. We've designed the grading plan to balance the on-site cut to the slope to the desired grades and establishing a maximum 3-to-1 tithe slope with no retaining walls and no buildings within the proposed project. There are 2 profiles that were provided in the application that show our cut and fills inside of the hillside overlay district. One side of the property is 11.3 feet of cut, and the northern side is 12.5 feet of fill. Those are our maximum cumulative places where we exceed the allowable 4 feet. We believe relief from the zoning code should be granted because the golf course provides some recreational outlets for its members and is updating to stay current with prevailing golf trends. This project does not propose any buildings and fits within the existing use and character of the neighborhood. The construction and final condition of the graded area will be a safe enhancement to the neighborhood. They also plan to do their own plantings that go along with the golf course. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'm sorry, could you read back the total cumulative cut fill you're asking for each
Yes.
cut?
Yes. The Grandin property, which is the southern property, we're asking for 11.28 instead of the 4. And on the observatory property, which is the northern property, we're asking for 12.47.
Gotcha. Okay. I see. All right. And it looks like the way that the zoning division of the planning department calculated some of those was no individual cut will exceed 11 or 12 feet, but overall on each property, because I'm assuming there are going to be several cuts, that it's approximately 70 feet cumulative cut fill on the observatory property and 32 feet of cumulative cut and fill on the Grandin Road parcel. Does that make sense?
I'm not sure how you would determine what the cumulative is then, because, you know, it would have to be over a length. It would have to be over a length.
Yeah.
So you know, our maximum cut and our maximum fill is 12.5 and 11, but there are places within the overlay district where we, you know, go along at about 10 or 12 feet of fill. It goes up and down across maybe 300 feet horizontally. But how do you pick out a cumulative amount from an area that you're doing construction in? I'm not sure how you would do that.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, in a minute, I'll let the planning department explain how they got to that number. So in terms of the actual project, are these cuts being made just for the actual playing course of the golf course, or are there going to be any structures or buildings or other things located in these cuts?
Yeah, no buildings will be added, changed, or any way affected. This is only for tee boxes, fairways, and greens. They're just basically changing a little bit of the playability of the course to reflect the current trends, I think, of golf. That's really what they're doing. It's just a tee box, fairway, and greens change. No buildings or anything like that are being changed, added, or affected.
Gotcha. And so will any of the cut and fill work create any cliff-like vertical slopes
No.
or anything like that?
No, our maximum slope is 3-to-1, which is a sustainable slope, and should say is a maximum sustainable slope.
Gotcha.
Supported by the geotech letter.
Okay. Let's see. Will there be any significant tree removal?
There'll be some tree removal as there are trees that line sort of the rough zones between holes that oppose each other, and I think some of those trees are going to get taken out. But those are the trees that line the holes. It's not like it's an area of forested area that's going to be cleared. It's just some of the trees that will get affected by the regrading of the holes are going to get taken out.
Gotcha. Okay. And that's all the questions I have at this point. Unless there's anything else you want to add now, I'll turn it over to Wes.
No, sir. Thank you.
Wes?
Good afternoon. Yeah, just to clarify a little bit, it is a little confusing how this cumulative cut and fill term and measurement is done. We basically take the upper and lower extents of where you're grading, and that would be like even for a house or in this case, a grading on a golf course. And then we just, subtract the two numbers. That's the larger number of the relief element where we talked about, 62-foot cumulative cut and fill, but then we dig in a little deeper and outline like that the actual maximum direct cut or fill at any one location is approximately 12 feet or 11 feet as we noted. And if you look at the staff report, the topography and grading plan submitted by the applicant, page 4, and 4 is like a overall reference to the project, and what we're looking at is specifically the grading inside the hillside overlay, which I had outlined in a red circle. And then on page 5, there's a detail, zoomed in version, where I kind of just circled the areas that were greater than or around the 12-foot fill number, which is a fairly small area. Kind of corresponds to the section drawing that was submitted as well, which shows the existing grade and proposed grade, so you can kind of see the extent of the cut or fill depending on the case. But that's kind of a explanation of that, and I understand it's a little confusing for applicants and the public to understand that. But and as far as our report,
Wes, can I just clarify something there? So
yeah,
whatever the lowest point is when there's some cut or earthwork done, you take whatever the number is there, the ASL, and then you compare that with wherever the highest number is where there's earthwork being done.
Yeah.
And whether that the cut is contiguous or not.
Yeah, right. We don't.
So yeah, several cuts.
We're not, necessarily looking to see that they're contiguous. It's the entire project, I guess. But then, this has several different spots where they're grading, and they may or may not be contiguous. But we just looked at the entirety of it in this case.
Got it. Okay.
So I mean, in the specifically, like the top part was 785 on this one, and the bottom was at 715. So that's what 70 feet difference. I mean, it really doesn't really mean anything in a vacuum. It's just a number, but when you get into it, that's the actual direct cut and fill is probably the more important parameter of that. But as far as our review, we did recommend approval, being that they're fairly modest direct cut and fills at any one location, and it's not really impacting anybody, on the surrounding properties and such. So we didn't really see much adverse impact on anybody else. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Wes. We did have, looks like someone tried to join us late here. Is there a Sally that would like to participate? Okay. Rob, give you an opportunity to respond to anything Wes said or make any other statements in closing or otherwise.
I appreciate staff's review and approval, and I would agree that perhaps maybe the high elevation to low elevation and the difference between the two may not tell you as much as you might think the number would. So when you say it's 70 feet of cumulative cut or fill, that sounds outrageous. But when you're just subtracting the high elevation from the low elevation on the site that's affected, if you had like we have a hillside, on our property. So just we're taking the high and the low and we're saying that's what it is. It's maybe a little misleading from what I think the important piece is, and which we're reporting is that in any one spot, our maximum is 12. And I appreciate what Wes said about looking at an area of cut and fill, and it's actually kind of smallish, where we're doing that 12 feet and 11 feet. So, staff's approving and I'm agreeing, and I'm happy to hear that they're on board with us. It's changed the golf course. It's good for them. I think it's no impact on the neighbors. It's good for the community. So, yeah, I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you. Let's leave it at that then. I've had an opportunity to review the application materials and the staff report. Based on that, based on the testimony I've heard here today, I agree with the applicant's arguments. I think it would be impractical to strictly enforce the zoning code of this project, and it will have none or close to no impact on any neighboring property owners. So based on that, I am going to approve the project. I need to formalize that approval in a written decision. I mentioned at the beginning that typically takes about 2 weeks. As soon as I finish that, I'll put it into a PDF and I'll email it to everybody who's in the hearing here today. So you'll have it really just moments after it's complete. Once Wes has that, he can approve the zoning permitting on his end, and hopefully you can take the next steps. Okay. Thanks
Thank you.
again. Sure. If you have any questions in the meantime or would like a status update on the decision, please feel free to reach out. Wes, did you have something?
I just want to mention to Rob that as soon as I get the written decision from David, I can approve the permitting for both of the permits. So I'll be on the lookout for that. And, if you see the email and I don't get to it, just shoot me an email saying, check into this. So.
Will do. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, thanks everyone. Have a great day, and we are adjourned.